welcome back to the Short Ball Podcast, reacting to a weekend of footy, a grouse weekend of footy I spent Saturday out at Leichhardt, and as a lot of you will be following along on Instagram and who follow these junior leagues would know, this was an absolutely cracking day of footy out there. Started off with, the Lisa Fiola game, which ended in a match winner for the Tigers. Tasha Gal ended up in that, controversial match winner for the Roosters, but a cracking finish nonetheless. For the Harold Matthews, Central Coast Roosters, getting a big win over the Roosters, who were one of the favourites to win the comp, at least along the general consensus of people I was talking to about that competition, that the Sydney Roosters were the team that everybody sort of had pinned as the ones to beat at some stage. I sort of was against that. I was on the Warriors, and I thought the Roosters would go through and make the grand final, but to get out in straight sets and for the Central Coast Roosters to perform the way they did was unreal. And it did come down to the final play as well in that game. Like Ravai Tulavu had two late tries to make it 36-30, and Roosters had a final crack at them but come up with an error, and errors were the story of the game for them in that one, as it was last week when they lost to the Warriors. SG Ball, Raiders and Bulldogs, that was a cracking game up until sort of Raiders half run away with it, but even then you were looking at this Bulldogs side thinking, they done it last week, can they do it again? They're down 16, but they were down 16 last week against the Sharks as well and come back. So that was a good game of footy, that. And for the Harold Matthews to end it off with the Rabbitohs and Steelers, absolutely unreal. 18-14 that was, and it was well documented, the ending to that game, which was absolutely unreal. So those are the games at Leichhardt. I will go through them first, but I will also go through the SG Ball at Parker Street, and then obviously where the Eels won 24 points to 12, I believe the final score was. And then you had the two Tasha Gal and Lisa Fiola games, both between Para and Penrith. Para got up in both of those. Tasha Gal was 28-12, and the Lisa Fiola was 26-12. So I'll start off at the top of the day at Leichhardt. Lisa Fiola, Sharks v Tigers. That was 22-8 or 24-18 at the end of it. They were tied up 18 all with a minute left on the clock, and the Tigers ended up scoring a match winner. Tigers were up 18-6, and they were dominating through the middle. I thought the usual suspects had really good games. Sage Tatalafua, spoke about her in the last podcast. She was really good. She scored a nice try running a tight line. Thought Mia Tonga was one of their best at halfback. She had a really good game as well. Looked very dangerous, especially in that second half. She just sort of controlled the game, and she had that ball to put Sage through for her try. So she was very good performance there. And then through the middle, the two middle forwards there with Mayfu and Mayono and Aliana Fasavalu Farmasili were unreal. The latter there, she got my man of the match, player of the match in that game. I thought she was the best non-grab by far, and she had that match-winning moment as well. Did Aliana Fasavalu Farmasili. Really good moment for her to finish that off. It was a nice little, we used to call it a rhino play when I was playing. I was at Rouse Hill, the back end, where you just sort of had that drifter coming across and then somebody hitting that unders line back through the ruck, and that was Aliana there, and she hit it at pace and no one was stopping her. So it was a good little play there. And another play that was good was Dawn Tui, and I thought her contact was unreal. You're starting to see it more and more with these girls coming through the grades, as the contact's getting so much better. And Dawn Tui was ironing out people at some stage. She was unreal defensively, and she had a good moments in attack too. She scored their first try, just darting out from the ruck and going over from close range. On the Sharks side of things, they would just look like they were getting dominated the whole time, and then they found a way to pull out of the fire late. It started off with a stray pass, hit with an error, from the back rower. I think it was Araya Gilbert dropped the ball, but it was a little bit of a hospital ball because the Sharks defender rushed up and got into her face, dropped the ball. Olive Domine picks it up and runs about 40 metres and passes inside for Tali Weigand, who went the distance. She showed a clean pair of heels there to kick away. Ends up scoring underneath the sticks, and It was 18-12 at that point, but even then I'm like, okay, well, they just need to find something here. And because the Tigers had been the better side the whole game, and then they march down the field, and Manawanui James ends up scoring the try to level scores, and it was on the sideline. So Tali Wigan, who was the goal kicker, who had scored that first initial try as well. Yeah, she had the chance to level the scoring with the sideline conversion, absolutely nailed it. And she took her chance as well. I think it was just before half time. Believe the scores were at 14-6, I think it was. She had the chance to go from 40 out right in front, just said, yep, give me the tee straight away, and nearly got it. Like, it just fell short. Didn't have the legs, so good goal kicking display from her, and really clutch as well to be able to come up with that moment where she levels the scoring with that long range try. She brings it closer with that long range try, and then levels the scoring with the conversion from the sideline at the end. Maybe 5 meters in from the sideline, but still big moment there, and to ice it was good. But then the short kickoff comes from the Tigers. They get the ball back, and then they end up marching downfield and scoring through their front rower. So good win there from the Tigers. It'll be good to see them next week, how they go in the preliminary finals, and I'll preview that on Thursday to be released Friday, or maybe I might record it on Wednesday to be released Friday. But that's once the team list and all that sort of stuff comes out. The next game at Leichhardt that day was Tarsha Gale, Tigers v Roosters, and I'll go off the rip and talk about this offside controversial call. Plenty of people, even though I explained the rule multiple times, plenty of people who seem to think that was still offside or there was some sort of an issue. So I'll just go through it real quick. If you take a field goal attempt or any kind of kick at all, and it comes off of an opposition's hand and they don't regather it. So this is the main thing, right? If you put a kick up, somebody catches it, then everybody who's in front of the kicker is offside, obviously. If you put a kick up and the opposition touches it, but then loses the ball or touches it and it's a deflection, everybody who's offside is then ruled onside. Don't know why that's a rule, but it is the rule. Luca Bell Naturi Ongli plays the ball, obviously goes back to Logan Fletcher, who has the opportunity to kick it. She then kicks it. It deflects off. I think Ellie Barnett was putting the kick pressure on, deflects off, and Naturi Ongli gets the ball off the deflection and has a couple people still in front of her, right? Like, she's still got a little bit to do, and there was Tigers defenders who could have stopped it. But yeah, she's ended up going through and scoring, and it was a good try from her to seal the game. That was right on the buzzer. And as the players and referees and all that coming off, the entire stand at Leichhardt Oval starts booing the referee. And then I put up the post of the match winner, and as soon as I did it, I knew what was coming, so I put up a explanation of the rule on my story. The first comment that I got within 30 seconds of me posting it was surely offside, or is that not offside, or something along those lines, and explained it there. But still, messages and comments and everything flooding through of, it's offside, or just stuff like that. It's not offside. That's the end of that. But an awesome moment for the Roosters. They were another team that was down 18-6. The Tigers, again, looked dominant in this game, and then let the Roosters back into it. Evie McGrath for the Tigers. I know she's an NRLW player, and she should be setting those standards and should be carving up. But in that second half, she couldn't have done too much more to win them this game. She had a couple of passes that were put down, or she created opportunities that just aren't happening at that level. If she's not there, like the try that she set up for Eleanor Namua, where she put the chip and chase in and then through to Namua. And Namua still had a bit to do. It was a really good finish, actually. I posted the highlight of that up on my Instagram if you want to go watch it. But she had an absolute blinder, especially in the second half when 2 minutes to go, the scores are tied at 18 all. She throws a pearler of a cutout ball to the winger. winger gets through, and good work from Logan Fletcher, the Roosters fullback, to get across, gets in front of the winger, makes a tackle, forces the error from it. And then that's where the Roosters then march up the field, and that was Logan Fletcher. I thought she was one of the best on ground all day. Was doing good work back there at fullback, and then she ended up being the one that attempted the drop goal that got deflected for the match winner. But yeah, she had a good game there. Logan Fletcher, the fullback. Georgie Barrett had some really nice touches. Had a try assist as part of that comeback. Run the ball nicely when she did run the ball, but it was mostly her ball playing. She got one of the tries that was scored, she got jammed up on and showed a nice pair of hands to create the overlap. So a really good game from the Roosters, number 6 as well. And just another one, I spoke about her a bit in last year's Tasha Gale season, but Tyra Ekapati, just a proper athlete. She ended up scoring a try. It was a good little try, that. And then Tigers make a break. I think it was Evie McGrath again who made the break. Went about 40, 50 metres. And Tyra Ekapati come from the other side of the field, chased her down and made an awesome tackle. That would have saved the try, because I don't think there was, off the top of my head, remembering the game, there wasn't too many Roosters players in the frame when they were chasing. So good game from her as well. They were some of my standouts. But I'll just move on now to the next game, which was the Howard Matthews Central Coast Roosters and the Sydney Roosters. Look, Central Coast Roosters, I sort of copped a bit of shit for not having them in my top 3 sort of sides in it to win the comp, or top 4. I think I didn't have them in there because I had, and this was like round 4, mind you, I had Roosters, Steelers, Warriors, and Knights. And Knights ended up going on a massive run. So that's ended up just being the top 4. Which has worked out nicely for me if I go back and have a look at that. But copped a little bit of heat for not including Central Coast Roosters in that. They ended up sliding down to 5th after being in the top 4 for most of the year. Their loss against Penrith was disappointing, and I sort of sat here and went, look, I don't know if they're going to match it with the top sides, but they dominated the Roosters here. And look, they could not have been more clinical in that second half. Plenty of good games. Samuel Mikey was unreal. Zaylen Ekapati was just talking about his sister before in the Roosters game. That was an unreal performance from him for the Central Coast Roosters. He had a couple of line breaks. He was bouncing off tackles for a small frame. He had that involvement in that nice Blessing Foyne try, which was the one where he combined with Samuel Mikey. Blessing Foyne, another one that had a really good game. He was unstoppable, and it's not. I sit whenever I go to Leichhardt, I sit behind the post always, and that's just a general rule for when I go to games. I sit behind the post because you see all the shape. You just have a nice view of the game. You sort of see which way the numbers are. It's just a really analytical place to be able to watch the game from. Sometimes it's a bit shit when all the games played at the other end, but you still see a pretty decent view of what's happening. But another main reason why I do like to sit behind there is because you get to hear all the chat behind the post, and a lot of the chat behind the post is like, oh, look, we knew this was going to happen, Blessing Foyne. We know what he does. Like, he just charges. We've got to get numbers to him. And the Roosters, they were saying this, we've got to get numbers to him. And they did. They muscled up. They tried to get numbers to him, but he was just too good. Just bouncing off tackles at will, scored 2 tries again. Like, he's an absolute handful off the bench, and it's such a good asset to have a guy that you can just bring off the bench and just go, whenever we're within 5 metres or within 10 metres, we can just give you the ball and you're most likely going to score tries. Which in this Howard Matthews competition, like, I had the Warriors winning it. If you go back to when I was sort of doing a Q&A about who I think will win the comp, I said Warriors, and the reason why I said it was because I think they're the biggest side in the comp, and usually in Howard Matthews you see the biggest, most powerful sides through the middle are the ones that typically win it. And this is applied for the Central Coast Roosters. They've got a guy coming off the bench who's just scoring 1 or 2 tries. That's 6 points
a game that he's adding to your side, sometimes 12, just by being the biggest bloke on the field and being impossible to stop. So, yeah, a great game from him. But my man of the match in that game was Tolson McCulloch. Defensively, I just love what he does. He runs a really nice line. I just love those back rowers that can run a nice line inside the three or bouncing overs as well, and just runs it to perfection. He's got a good kick chase on him. He obviously last week he come up with those big moments. The strip, the 1-on-1 strip in particular. This week game sort of 30-18. It's at the tipping point, and he puts in a chip and chase for himself to score a try, and his first try as well. So he scored 2 tries. His first try was off a nice Carter Mariko kick, who was again just unreal. Like, he's been one of the premier. In fact, I'd probably say he's nearly been the best player in the competition this year. If you include what has happened throughout the semi-finals, like I know Oliver Burton was another one of the standouts throughout the year as well. But if you include what's happened in these last two finals games, Carter Mariko's nearly been the best player in the competition, and it's a deserved title because he's just so calm under pressure. His kicking game's elite. Like, he started off this game nailing a 40-20 and then following up with a grubber kick for Tolson McCulloch to open the scoring. Like, there's not too many halfbacks that are doing that sort of thing at this age. So I'm keen to see how he goes next year and following his career onwards. But yeah, when I do the team of the weeks, which I'm going to do pretty soon because I now have watched all the games, there's going to be probably 8 to 9 Central Coast Roosters players in that side. Like, obviously, McCulloch I spoke about, Mariko, Samuel Mikey, Zalen Ekapati, Bless and Foyne. That's just off the top of the head. Like, really, really good performance there from the Central Coast Roosters. Now, over to the Roosters side, look, too many errors, especially from the outside backs. I'm not going to single out any players, but there was a few poor performances where there was you just can't do that in a semi-final, and they did it last week as well against the Warriors, and that's why they've been bounced down back-to-back weeks. And it's not just, like, I don't mean to say, like, the outside backs are purely to blame. Like, there was errors across the park, and defensively, they needed to muscle up more. Like, they conceded 36 points. A couple of their players that have been really solid defensively this year just had a few lapses, especially, like, miscommunications between the 3 and 4, and just simple things that they didn't complete to perfection, and those were the things that were getting them wins over the top sides. Like, they beat the Steelers, they beat the Warriors in back-to-back weeks, round 8, 9, and maybe that took a toll on them because they had to be up for both of those games. Like, they've been playing finals footy for a month, and maybe that did just take a toll on them. But they were the best defensive side in the comp coming into finals, and they leaked 20 to the Warriors, which isn't too bad. Like, I thought they muscled up decently there. The first half, they conceded 16 points, which wasn't ideal, but they put all the pressure back on themselves with all the errors they were making. But this week, like, to concede 36 points, and I know the Central Coast Roosters are an unreal attacking side, but, like, it was pretty poor. They did find a way to get back into it late and still somehow give themselves a chance. That's just the sort of strike power they have in their side. Like, they were stacked 1-17, and they're a side that can go again next year. And in Howard Matthews, where they got a couple age up guys who can steer the ship there, and they can also go up to SG Ball, a couple of them boys, and be really competitive. So, look, not all doom and gloom for the Roosters. Ravai Tulivu, he was unreal. He scored a hat-trick. Hat-tricks in a losing side seem to be pretty common recently. Or poor Aiden Gow earlier in the season, 4 tries in a losing side. But, it's just, I can't really add too much more to it other than the defence was lackluster compared to what it has been and what it should have been for a semi-final. And the errors, particularly out of yardage, like, they put so much pressure on themselves and they have to make so many tackles that they probably are fatiguing, and what can you do about it? But yeah, so to go out in straight sets, disappointing end of the year, but I'm sure a lot of those players are serious talents and they'll go on to better things. SG Ball, Raiders, Bulldogs. Raiders got up 38-22, and when I was previewing this game, I thought maybe the quality of Mitch Woods and Alex Conti might be enough to get them over the line. I did add into the fact that you can't discount Braden Darmotti and Jamie Cowling, and I'm glad I added that because they absolutely schooled the Bulldogs. Braden Darmotti in particular was super impressive, but mostly the game was won through the middle. Samuel Hine, I thought, had a good game. He was really strong through the middle. He took plenty of carries. It was just sort of the tough stuff that he got through, but Jesse Millen, a double. He scored 6 tries in 2 games against the Bulldogs this year, so he's sort of owned him a little bit. Really good, just tough carries where he was making plenty of yardage. So a very solid performance from him. I gave him my man of the match. But like the 3 spine members, well, I should add probably all of the spine members for this game. Silas Simon, super impressive. He had a nice kick return that got him to the 50. He had a couple of nice, really good touches close to the line. Scored another try early. He was impressive as always. Braden Darmotti, as I said before, one of the best on ground. Jamie Cowling, close to the line, very dangerous. Good game, good kicking game as well. Darmotti had a pretty good kicking game as well, just quietly. Mitchell Brophy at the 9, Luke Cannon at 14. They're, the best 9 and 14 combo in the competition. I said that last week, and I'll stick by it. Brophy, unreal again, and Luke Cannon off the bench, like he made 2 or 3 line breaks, just that leg speed through the middle, through tied defenders. He just can make you look silly when he goes from dummy half. So, yeah, it was a very all-round good performance from the Raiders. They're a strong side. Cooper Johnson, again, just lightning quick so he can create chances. Jace Tuikamala, another one. Like, game sort of in the balance. They're down 18-12, drives to the line, scores a try. It was brilliant stuff from him. Their forward pack really won them the game, and then the backs created a lot of the attacking opportunities as well. But like Jesse Millen, I said it last week, I think he's due for higher honours at the end of this year. July under-19 State of Origin. I'd be very shocked if he isn't pulling on a sky blue jersey after the season that he's had, and particularly in that semi-final. A lot of selectors and stuff would have been watching that with a keen eye, and he was very impressive there. For the Bulldogs, I mentioned before in the Roosters Central Coast game that I like sitting behind the post and hearing the chat and seeing sort of what they're aiming towards, and then keeping an eye out for what they're aiming towards and what they say. And they were down, I think, 12-0 or 12-6, and they're all behind the post, and they've come back from big deficits before, and I'm sitting there and I'm just sort of listening to what they're saying, and one of the key players in that side goes, look at the clock, there's still 15 minutes left in this half, and 35 in the next, and we're good for it, like just keep to our processes, whatever. And they march down the field, and Mitch Woods has an unbelievable moment to just, well, not unbelievable, but a really good moment to sort of show and go, steps back between the ruck and then level scoring, and then they come out in the second half, and Sasai Alatini looked absolutely on one for the first 10 minutes of that second half. He had a mad kick chase where he pinned the Raiders down in their end. Force just had an amazing defensive set as well. Then I think Bulldogs pinned them inside their 10, or maybe that was the set after, but they ended up getting the ball back close to the line, and Sasai Alatini ends up scoring, and I thought, yeah, okay, he's on, and I thought the Bulldogs are on here, and I thought they're a team that is playing with so much confidence at the moment. They got Alex Conti and Mitch Woods in the halves who are just going to just keep up this pressure. Oliver Smith up front, Sasai Alatini's just looking to hit to hurt and run hard, and I'm just thinking, this could get ugly. And then the Raiders just turned it around, which was very impressive from them. And like I said, it was a very good team performance, and their forward pack was the ones that won it for them. But yeah, the Bulldogs, I thought, surely they've got to go on with this, and just didn't. And I don't know, I have said this as well, one player doesn't make a team, so Mitch Woods coming into the team doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go on a deep run like a lot of people were suggesting, but he makes a huge difference, and they ended up not taking control of the momentum that they had, and ended up losing pretty big to the Raiders. So good win from the Raiders. Keen to see them next week. They take on the Roosters. So that will be a good little matchup of the forward packs. The likes of Jesse Millen and Samuel Hine up front, taking on the likes of Kane and McGelly, Philip Lavakiaho, and obviously Atula Seve as well. Good little matchup there. Howard Matts, Rabbitohs Steelers, the last game of the Leichhardt Day on Saturday. 5 games was a long old day, but it ended up being worth it because this game was an absolute belter. The forward packs obviously came to play. There was a little running battle between Api Amone and Anthony Malungi. I think Anthony Malungi ended up winning that, but Api Amone had a couple of nice moments and he scored a try as well, which put the Steelers back into the game after Rabbitohs had a fast start. I thought... So the Steelers were missing Oliver Burton, who I mentioned before was one of the premier players in the competition, so that was always going to hurt. I thought out of yardage they were particularly going to miss him. Asher Chapman did a pretty good job back there, and then Asher Chapman had some very high-quality moments in attack. But it was the end of the game where I thought they missed him the most. Oliver Burton was the guy for them, 3 times this year, like in particular, in close games. He just came up with a sensational play to win them the game. Up against the Magpies was the one that obviously most people go back to. Up against the Raiders, I think it was 5 minutes to go, scores level, he just bursts through, scores a try, wins them the game. And up against the Dragons on the defensive side of things. And on the defensive side of things, I reckon he probably could have helped with that final try, because obviously it was a kick contest in the air. Whether he gets across to it or not, who's to know? But it was... I think they missed him, the Steelers, in those final moments, because they were up 14-12 with not long to go. They're actually up 14-6 at one point after the try to Sonny McGregor. There was a kick up from Humphreys, Creighton Merfo, who I thought had an absolute blinder again. He's played 2 finals games in a row where he's absolutely killed it. Just the results haven't gone his way. But he goes up for the kick from Humphreys, flick passes it out the back, it bounces once, but finds its way to Sonny McGregor, who scores. Mason Andrews was brilliant again. He's another one worth shouting out. The forward pack battle was unreal. I spoke after the game about how good Anthony Malungi had played, and Ben Cabry was back for the Rabbitohs. Clayton Magoon, really good performance. Peyton Terrell, another good performance there. But yeah, it was just a cracking game. The contact was good. It was fiery. Steelers had all the momentum after. So in the second half starts, I think it's 8-6 to the Steelers. Rabbitohs had all the ball and just could not score. I think there was a grubber kick in behind from Darcy Feltham, who I'll talk about a little bit later. He was my man of the match. Grubber kick behind from him. Keone Anatolia Chusas grounds it, but he then gets ruled offside. And then the Steelers, they turn around and score soon after, once they've just turned the momentum. And I just thought, look, this is the Steelers side who's running first, and was only defeated once all year to the Roosters. Maybe they're just too good. Their defense was solid. They kept the Rabbitohs at bay. But then the final 15 minutes was just, or the final 10 minutes rather, was just all the Rabbitohs. And the Steelers just couldn't dig themselves out of that hole. And I think goal kicking as well was the big one. Peyton Terrell nailed a couple of tough conversions that kept the Steelers away. Because they ended up, both teams scored 3 tries in the end. And that was a 4-point difference. And, they had the Steelers at the end of the game had a chance to, there was a penalty, obviously, from about 30 metres out right in front. So it being behind by 4 forced them to tap and go. But I wonder how different the game goes had they had the opportunity to kick the goal. Good little contest. At the end, obviously, Darcy Feltham was my player of the match. He had the try assisted initially, Takafar, at the start of the game. Then he scores a try to make it 14-12. He had a line break through the middle of the game as well. His little grubber kick in for Anatolia Chusas was unreal. He had so many quality touches. I thought he was a little bit quiet to the early parts of the game. I thought against Manly he wasn't at his absolute best, but generally, just as a general consensus, I think the last month of footy that he's played has been the best footy I've seen him play before. So he's really stepping up. He was obviously a City under-16s player last year, so great rugby league football player. But yeah, his best footy that I've seen him play was over the last month, and I think it all come together in that win over the Steelers. He was unreal. Yeah, Clayton Magoon, just the last one that I wanted to talk about. Final try goes to Keone Ataliachusas, the captain. I spoke about him last podcast. I said he was a player to watch. He had a pretty good game as well, but it was all come down to this final moment. He gets the ball. I thought the kick pressure was pretty poor from the Steelers. They just sort of sat back and watched him, but you can only sort of do what you can. And Keone looked up, gave himself a little bit of time, and then put the kick across field to Clayton Magoon, who had been unreal in the air throughout the game. Like, he had another one where he took it over the top of Asher Chapman, a kick, and found the offload inside, creating half chances through that, and he ended up being the one that jumped over the top of a couple of Steelers players and a couple of his own players too, to grab the ball and win them the game. It was just an unreal moment for the Rabbitohs, and they're another team that has knocked off one of these top three sides that were sort of the ones to beat on most people's consensus. But like I've said a couple of times, this match competition is wide open. Anyone from 1 to 8 could have won it. And you see this, like, I can't imagine what it would have been like if the Eels had gone through ahead of the Central Coast Roosters, who, like, Central Coast Roosters had to dig deep to beat them. They were down 8 with 5 minutes to go. Then the Central Coast Roosters have come out and knocked off the Sydney Roosters, and then the Rabbitohs here knocking off the Steelers. Like, the Steelers and the Roosters, who were two sides that a lot of people would have had as the two favourites to win the comp, both have been knocked out in straight sets. So, been a great competition, and those games have been really good to watch. Especially like that Rabbitohs Steelers game was one of the great games. Now over to Parker Street, Eels v Storm in the SG Ball. I don't have too much to say on this game because Eels won, but they didn't do it particularly well. Like, they did end up being, decisive winners. Like, Storm never got within one possession after the Eels finally turned it on, but they had their down moments. And I think when they verse the Rabbitohs next week, and it's a Rabbitohs home game at Redfern Oval, that could be a tough matchup for them, because if they switch in and out of games like they did on the weekend, like they did against the Roosters before that, like they've done a couple of times this year, they could get knocked off. And they were the unbeaten side. They were the team that beat, that finished first. And they've come out in this final series and fired blanks. That's probably a bit discrediting to the Storm. Like, I think the Storm are a good football side, but when the Eels turned it on through that middle 15 period, they were unbeatable. They looked unbeatable. The key players were standing up, and even like their 1 to 17, everybody that was on the field, well, their 1 to 13, everyone that was on the field from about the 20th minute, I'll say, to maybe the 40th minute, were all playing super well. And then they just switched back off again, and the Storm dominated the second half, but just couldn't find points. And another one where goal kicking might have cost them, because I'd love to see what would have happened if, instead of being 20-12 down, which when it was, I think 4 tries to 3 it was, but still 4 tries to 3, you're down 20-12, you're down by 8 points. Like, they were 0 from 3 on the kicks, the Storm. If they're down 20-16 instead, I'd love to see how they go about that final attacking set that I think cost them the game in the end, where they, kicked the ball dead and then gave away a penalty, and from there Parramatta just seized back control of the game. But they were rolling through the middle. Cooper Clark, Kobe Floro, Michael Arena, like, they were just having absolute blinders through the middle. They just steamrolling Parramatta and got the game back to 20 points to 12. Waka Hammond was really good. Alize Clark scored a try, which was a nice little use of the ball. And I thought he was pretty good during this period. And then, 20-12, they have to sort of start to rush a little bit, because they're behind a team that's been undefeated all year. But if that they hit their kicks and it's 20-16, all you've got to do is just keep building pressure and just find a way to score once. And they failed to do that, and they might look back at that and think that's a missed opportunity. And I certainly looked at that game and thought the Eels weren't convincing, and they need to really step up their game next week, because if they have a period like that against the Rabbitohs, well, I think the Rabbitohs could put a bit of a cricket score on them. And I think it's probably a bit harsh to the Storm to suggest that, but I think the Storm just lacked points. And the extra 2 points from a conversion is included in that conversation, and they probably win the game if they have those, if they hit their kicks, because I think they had all the momentum they could have and should have run over the top of the Eels in that second half. As I said, a couple of those key performers, Cooper Clark, Michael Arena, Kobe Flores, Charbel Corella, I thought was really good off the bench. Frank Howard, solid again in that back row. But yeah, it was David Chua-Ricky looked dangerous as well. Had a couple of errors, but he looked dangerous when he was running the ball. It's just I can't wait to see how the Eels go next week against the Rabbitohs, because the Eels beat the Rabbitohs last time, but if you remember, Matty Humphries had an absolute blinder in the first 15 minutes, and they were up 16-0, and the Rabbitohs were without their main two front rowers in Maddox Fui and Johannes Logan. They're going to be without Johannes Logan again, which is devastating for them. They're also going to be without Matthew Humphries. So, in saying that, Rabbitohs missing a few key players for next week. So maybe the Eels have been let off the hook a little bit, but still, with the players that they got, like Taj Alvarez, he's playing unbelievable footy. If he continues to that standard, he could start to blow them open. So that's going to be a super interesting matchup next time, because I think the Eels need to be better for the standard that they've set for themselves throughout the season. But I'll end it on that note. I'll obviously do my preview podcast. We'll talk more about all those games that are coming up. Good footy coming up. If you watched last week at Leichhardt, you'd know. Or if you watched Saturday at Leichhardt, you'd know. And you'd be keen to get down to these games. I think you got 2 at Lidcombe Oval in the men's stuff, 2 at Lidcombe Oval, and then 2 at Redfern Oval. And then you'll have the girls' stuff at the Oaks. That might be all 4 games at the Oaks. I'll have to double check that, and I'll post everything up onto my page on Instagram at the Short Ball. Make sure you go follow me there, and see you all on Friday.